From all of us at Kaleidoscope, here's wishing you a Sri Lankan New Year full of joy, peace, hope, and of course, prosperity. And we bring on that Avurudu spirit in its best sense as we visit Nuga Gama at Cinnamon Grand. This village in the city pulled out all the stops to make the harvest celebrations, that's what Avurudu is all about after all, point to a prosperous one. The season is all about bringing everyone together in the true spirit of unity and prosperity. Welcome to Kaleidoscope, where we indulge in Avurudu celebrations, bringing you everything positive, daring and different. On the show today, we are uplifting MSMEs in Sri Lanka, understanding the nuances of Aboriginal culture and moving into Good Friday by knowing your cross. Don't forget, Kaleidoscope is on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn. Remember to subscribe, follow and like us for more. Our partners on the show are brilliant. Thank you, Srilanka Life, CDB and The Daily Morning.
She wins with CDB Wings, exclusive financial solutions for women.
Looking back at the week that was on CDB Snapshot. According to the Census of Population and Housing, Sri Lanka's population in 2024 counted to 21,763,170, more than a 1 million increase compared to 2012. And in addition to the population could be anticipated, more than 50 men have already registered as sperm donors at the Colombo's new sperm bank. India and the UAE agreed to develop an energy hub in Sri Lanka. The Mental State of the World report ranks Uzbekistan as the world's most miserable country, with UK coming in second. A friendly alligator is left behind at a hotel room in Michigan by an owner who thought it had gone out for a walk.
You focus on your goals. We will take care of the risks. Srilanka Life.
Welcome to Srilanka Life News Capsule. Micro, small and medium enterprises or MSMEs are the backbone of Sri Lanka's economy, with over 90% of all non-agricultural enterprises. They provide approximately 45% of total employment and contribute about 52% to Sri Lanka's GDP. Of this, micro-enterprises encompass a significant 91.8%. Citizens Development Business Finance mooted a unique project titled SMB Friday to afford MSMEs in Sri Lanka free digital support and exposure. And there have been tangible benefits for these businesses with the increased visibility, marketing and promotional opportunities and the digital marketplace patpat.lk. I invited CDB's Assistant Manager Sustainability, Savin Gunasekara, to give us more information. Savin, how do you see the status of micro and SMEs in Sri Lanka? What are the challenges they face?
Micro, small and medium enterprises in Sri Lanka are the essential part of the economy but face significant challenges like access to finance remains one of the biggest hurdles, with many SMEs struggling to secure loans or financial support for growth. Additionally, skill gaps, limited access to technology and innovation and competition from larger businesses further limit their potential. SMEs can become significant drivers of the economy by creating jobs, boosting innovation and contributing to overall economic growth.
What is the role that SMB Friday plays in uplifting these businesses and how does it help them?
Through digital marketing support like training and access to promotional opportunities, SMB Friday helps these businesses reach a wide audience, improving their brand visibilities and connect with the potential customers. The initiative focuses on uplifting both men and women entrepreneurs, provides a platform for them to grow and sustain their businesses.
So what are the success stories you've had?
Over the years, SMB Friday has supported numerous businesses, particularly women-led enterprises, in gaining visibility and increasing their sales For example, a local artisan who participated the SMB Friday initiative saw a 50% increase on online sales within just 3 months. Another success story involved a small food business that expanded its customer base after participating in SMB Fridays promotional campaigns. These are just a few examples of the positive impact the initiative has had on local entrepreneurs. Further, in celebration of International Women's Day, a SMB fair was organized targeting the WSMEs, giving them the opportunity to showcase their businesses.
Savin, what plans are there to take SMB Friday to the next level?
We plan to extend our reach to more regions outside the Colombo and provide even more targeted support for specific sectors. We also aim to further integrate digital tools like e-commerce platforms, payment systems in collaboration with CDB Self-App and business analytics to help businesses grow in the digital space. Additionally, we are exploring opportunities to offer more financial solutions to SMEs, including loan schemes. Our vision is to create a robust ecosystem to SMEs that helps them thrive both locally and internationally.
We do a wrap up of our markets for the first quarter of 2025. The All Share Price Index at the Colombo Stock Exchange recording many all-time highs, but was short-lived with prices and turnover levels both dropping at the latter end of the quarter. Oil prices averaged between 72 and 75 US dollars per barrel, although in the first week of April, new tariffs imposed by the US have renewed fears of a self-imposed recession, leading to prices heading downwards to 61 US dollars per barrel. Gold prices broke all-time high records in the first quarter and seemed to be firm at over 3,100 US dollars per ounce, even as global stocks tumbled after impositions of new trade tariffs by US President Donald Trump. Bhutan is aiming high with its new airport. The Gelifo International Airport aims to honor the country's natural landscapes and traditional architecture with spaces to take baths, do yoga and relax. Literally a breath of fresh air.
Natalie Palleros is a woman of resilience, intellect, and unwavering compassion. A former elite swimmer who represented Sri Lanka and was crowned Miss Sri Lanka for Miss World in 1985, she leveraged her athletic success into academic opportunities, earning degrees in architecture and planning. With all of her achievements in tow, Natalie has had to contend with a personal history of trauma, being sexually abused as a child, but that shaped her lifelong commitment to helping society's most vulnerable. From working with Aboriginal communities to teaching in prisons and aiding the homeless, she has dedicated her life to uplifting those facing systemic barriers. In Sri Lanka on vacation, she popped into the studio to share her work, her learnings, and her revelations. How did your experience of childhood sexual abuse shape your perspective on life and also influence your work today?
I've never asked the question why, right? Because there's no answer that can address the cruelty and the depravity of that. Somewhere in my subconscious, I think I always was telling myself that I wasn't going to be a product of circumstances. But then the question I did ask myself is, with this lived experience, what can I do to help others who have walked that path? And what can I do to try and stop?
You work with Aboriginal communities. I do believe it's very rewarding for you. What captivated you most about them?
There's a great similarity between the Aboriginal culture and the Sinhalese and Tamil cultures, to do with respect, to do with a lot of things. But I also very much their attitude towards the land resonated with me because the land doesn't belong to you. You belong to the land. You're on here and you're gone.
What are the biggest challenges that Aboriginal youth face when it comes to education?
In Aboriginal culture, the elders, they held knowledge. That was what made them elders, because they didn't have written language, right? Their language was oral. They had these things called storylines. So as a person grew up, they would have the story told to them, and a little bit more would be added to it all the time. Like they'd have a story about how the magpie, that was why it became black. But the reason for that is actually telling you about where to start fires, where to get flayed. So the British actually figured this out, and they decimated all the elders. So they took away the knowledge. There's nothing written down. So not only did they lose all of that, right? And then there was, the British viewed them as subhuman. They weren't allowed to speak their languages. They were just seen as people who could be work as laborers and clean houses. So all that was taken away from them. They no longer have a culture of education. So, I tell them these stories, and I do so with permission from having worked with the elders. And poverty, just like here, poverty is an enormous issue. So one of the things that I found out, trying to figure out why these young girls that I was working, why they're not going to school. And some things could be as simple as not having money for lunch. So applying for a grant and making sure there was credit at the tuck shop so that they could go to school. Lice on their heads. And other kids saying, yuck, we don't want to be near you, getting their heads cleaned, having their clothes washed. And I also would go into class and sit with kids to do numeracy and literacy with them.
Natalie, has anything changed for the Aboriginal community?
The Aboriginal population in Australia is about 3.2%. They haven't had culturally appropriate help. There's a big gap between white Australians and Aboriginal Australians. I don't see closing at all. I don't think there's been much movement in the last 30 years. But I am seeing young people like saying, with potential. And there is hope. One has to have hope.
Natalie, you've been embraced by Aboriginal elders. You participated in their ceremonies. You work with them very closely. What has that experience taught you about cultural healing, about community resilience?
They've survived 60,000 years. That's the oldest living culture on this earth. I don't know what it is. I don't know how they survive. They draw on each other, and they draw on the land. And there must be something inherently strong in that.
Thank you so much. Been very insightful, a learning experience for me too.
On Good Friday, Christians revere the cross for its symbolism of the crucifixion and Jesus' death on the cross. However, crosses came to be long before Jesus was crucified on Golgotha or the Hill of Skulls. There are links to crosses from Indian to Native American, Asian and Middle Eastern symbology dating back to prehistoric times associated with sun worship. The ankh, symbolizing the concept of life, was found in ancient murals found in Egypt, a symbol later adopted by missionaries. The solar cross is believed to be the oldest religious symbol in the world and may have been the influence to many of the cross symbols that came later. The exact origin of the Celtic cross is not quite known, but it was used before Christianity and has pagan associations. All the missionaries adopted this cross to aid their evangelical efforts. The Greek cross is another symbol used before Christianity as a decorative motif on architecture, clothing and accessories. The swastika, which unfortunately was adopted by the Nazi Party, was actually a sacred symbol conducive to well-being, representing peace. It has deep symbolism in a number of religions, including Hinduism. The Tau cross, typically carved out of wood, represents the Greek letter Tau and was used by St. Francis as his emblem and even his signature. The Russian Orthodox cross has 3 bars. The lower bar represents the footrest where Jesus' feet were nailed, the upper bar for his head, and the middle cross for his hands. And finally, the forked cross, which was used to crucify thieves in Roman times, with a strong focus on the Passion of Christ, as Jesus is believed to have been crucified on such a cross. A blessed Easter. May we be blessed with peace. We'll be back next week.